Unit 9, Lesson B. So once we add parabolas, we are up to 4 families of functions. So let's think for a second about what we've covered already. We have spent a whole lot of time covering linear functions, and one of their formulas, y equals mx plus b. I graphed here for you one of the simplest forms, which is just y equals x. We have talked a little bit, not a lot, about exponential functions, which have the formula y equals a times b to the x. This one is just a simpler form. It's not the simplest form. I graphed y equals 2 to the x, and it gives you a curve like that. Let me go down this way. We spent some time, and as I recall, everybody was really good at this one, working with the absolute value function, which is just y equals the absolute value of x. And this is the one that we spent time translating. You know, we moved it up and down and left and right, depending on whether we put a number inside the absolute value signs or outside the absolute value signs. Now we are focusing on the quadratic function. Here's your formula again, which you're going to memorize, right? ax squared plus bx plus c. And this is the simplest form of a parabola. When you have y equals x squared, that's what it looks like. So what I want to do with this video is start working on parabolic translations a little bit. We're going to figure out what the a and the b and the c in the quadratic formula do. So I want you to start with this. Would you please graph y equals 4x squared and y equals 1/4 x. How are you going to do that, you ask? Well, step 1 is make a table of values, and I'm going to tell you to use these values so that you end up with both sides of your parabola. For y equals 4x squared, see what I've done? I've put 0 in, 1 and -1, 2 and -2. And I used the same numbers for y equals 1/4 x squared, so it would be really obvious exactly what happens to the parabola. So double check my math, get this written down, and then step 2 is to graph these two tables. You should end up with 2 little graphs, and keep the scale the same on both graphs. You give it a try, then come back and compare your graphs to mine. So here are my 2 graphs. This one is y equals 4x squared. It's right under my table for y equals 4x squared in my notebook. And you'll see I used, let me zoom in. My scale on the x-axis, I used 1 number for each square, but I went up by 2's on the y-axis so that I could fit my 2 points that are 16 in, and here's my parabola. Now when I graphed y equals 1/4 x, I used the exact same scale so that I'd be able to see the transformation, and here are my points. Alright. So question 1, and what I mean by question 1 is this is your assignment, so please get it written down in your homework. There are going to be 5 of these, so 4 more things for you to graph. Anyway, first question is, what does the a coefficient determine? What do I mean by that? Well, when I started this, all I gave you was a y, the x squared, and the term that the x squared is multiplied by. That's the a term in your quadratic function. So what does the value of that a term determine? Think about it. When you're ready, come back, we'll go on to the next set. Okay, so question 2, we're still working with the a coefficient. This time I want you to graph y equals 3x squared and y equals -3x squared. Follow the same procedure. Do 2 tables. You can even use all the same values if you want to. Graph them. And question 2 is, what else does the A coefficient determine? The answer should become obvious as you look at your graphs. Question 3, graph and compare y equals x squared plus 2 and y equals x squared minus 2. What does the C term determine? Yes, I skipped right over B and went to C. Question 4, why is this the C term and not the B term? Yeah, how come my question here wasn't what does the B term determine? That's a bit tricky. Think about it. Question 5 might help you answer that. Graph and compare y squared plus 2x and y equals x squared minus 2x. Same thing. Do 2 tables, do 2 graphs. What does the B term determine? And I'm going to draw these up and put the answers in a check sheet, and that will be in the box for you to look at when you're done with this. That's all. Your next lesson is going to be Unit 9, Lesson C, and I think with Lesson C we're going to kind of jump back into the book.